the idea had been buzzing around my brain for several years. The one problem being I didn't have any money at all. Still don't. So I made a few decisions. One was to obviously recruit a team of journalists, but to do so in a way that meant I didn't have to pay them. That was the first challenge. But the way that the Cali Merc works is we have a revenue share. We bring in advertising revenue, the journalists get a hefty cut of it. If we have a good month, they have a good month. If we have a bad month, they have a bad month. So I made sure I recruited people who had an existing income stream, who were established freelancers. I didn't want anyone relying on me to pay the mortgage when we were in the startup phase. And I basically chose people I'd worked with before who I knew were self-starters. Because we can't afford an enormous subbing team, we needed people who were completely reliable. And while we will have cock-ups, I wanted to minimize the number of them. We decided to build the site. I mentioned that I'd worked as a consultant, and one of the things we did was we built sites in WordPress. We decided to try something new. We built the site in WordPress multi-user. My quick advice for you, if you're thinking of building a site in multi-user, is don't. We then arranged some pre-launch publicity, which essentially meant speaking to a media site in Scotland called All Media Scotland, and from that we had coverage in The Guardian, journalism.co.uk, Hold the Front Page, all over the shop. And that was great. We set up our virtual newsroom, which meant everyone had a laptop and a phone. But we had to keep the name secret because we were building it live, because we wanted it indexed by search engines as soon as possible. If anyone went to the URL, they'd see it was a pile of crap. So round about November, I decided on the name Caledonian Mercury. I'll come to why in a minute. 2 days later, a piece appeared in All Media Scotland saying, hey, I'm launching a website. 2.5 days later, I got an email from someone going, is it Caledonian Mercury by any chance? And this was a former colleague of mine who just guessed the name and typed it in, found the URL, found the site, and God bless him, he kept his mouth shut for 2 months, which is hard for a journalist who stumbled across something. Like I said, the launch was planned since November 2009. We did a lot of teasers. And then about 8 hours before we were supposed to launch, the name slipped out on Twitter, and we got a massive amount of publicity. We got UK-wide coverage. We got 45,000 readers in one day. Now, our target for the end of the year was 30,000 in one day. So it was a fantastic coup. It was great. It was on Newsnight that night, and it was a complete fluke. Everyone thinks I'm a PR genius up north. It was a complete accident. Someone pressed the wrong button, and we showed our knickers to the world and got a lot of attention. So the key aims are to be innovative and inventive, to make money from journalism. That's what it's about. What we're trying to do is strip out all the costs that get in the way, all the finance departments, the HR department, the printing, all of it, and try and connect journalism to advertising revenue and other forms of revenue as neatly as possible, and to basically find out if that works. You know, is there a way for journalists to make money from the internet without the support of a big company behind them? We chose the name Caledonian Mercury because the Caledonian Mercury is in fact Scotland's first newspaper. One of our key readership groups will be expats in the States especially, and that kind of historic name really plays to them. We have a heritage section on the site to try and capitalize on that. The Mercurius Caledonius, though, only lasted 3 months, so we have already eclipsed our glorious predecessor, and we try to spell foreign differently from the way they did. Interesting fact about the Caledonian Mercury, in a later incarnation from this one in the mid-19th century, the editor of the Scotsman and the editor of the Caledonian Mercury fought a duel. The editor of the Cali Merc, a chap called James Brown, had insulted Charles MacLaren of the Scotsman. They met in a field outside Edinburgh at dawn with pistols, shot at each other, missed, and then walked away without shaking hands. So we like that sense of history, and we very cheekily just tapped into it. As I said, we're a network of specialist journalists. The heart of the site is a series of niches. We're not trying to do general news. That market's saturated, and there there's little immediate value for us. We've juggled around with various elevator pitches for what we are, and we kind of think we're the Economist meets the Huffington Post drinking iron brew, and that's kind of the slot we're trying to fit. Intelligent analysis, in-depth reporting, occasionally some breaking news. We do very well, especially on health, in terms of breaking stories. We try to focus on uniqueness rather than churn, so we try to make sure that if we're writing something that our readers are not going to find it somewhere else before. We can't afford to be going head-to-head with the BBC. We can't really afford to be going head-to-head with the Scotsman in terms of competing on patches like crime, so we don't try. We focus very much on our core capabilities, and as I said, we work on a basis of shared risk and reward. Now, the interesting thing is that within that famously tight newspaper market, we have found a core audience. You know, we found a bunch of people who were not being served, people who are interested in things we've got to say, who were not being met already. And we're kind of hearing that from advertisers as well, that there's a bunch of people who no one's quite reaching. So what we've done is we've identified niches where we think there's an audience and niches where we think there's money, and we're throwing excellent journalism at it. So since launch, which was supposed to be the 25th of January, but turned out to be late afternoon on the 24th of January, we've had over 1 million page views, 500,000 unique users. We have comment on the site, of which more later. We've got more than 8,000. We've got a bunch of followers on Twitter and nearly 1,000 fans on Facebook. And we tend to use these as ways of publishing our stories as well, of engaging with our readership. And we've become an established news source in Scotland, which is not bad for 4 months in. But our key aim is to create that platform for online debate. I said during the panel discussion that kind of the 2011 election campaign has begun for us, so that's something we're going to try to take ownership of. And we've nearly got a gong. We were at the Newspaper Awards down south recently. We were the only Scottish site there. We were highly commended alongside The Guardian, and we came ahead of the Wall Street Journal Europe and The Telegraph, which is very nice, but all we've done is used it as a stick to beat the advertisers with, to go, look at us, you've got to take us seriously. User interaction, it's great. However, there's a lot of risks that come with it. I was editor of Scotsman.com when we introduced comment on that site. And in the course of a year, we received something like 700,000 unique users, 700,000 comments. And I spent a lot of time on the phone to the of BBC Scotland after someone published his home address on the site. I spent a lot of time talking to High Court judges after people made reference to live court cases. And the most embarrassing one was a conversation I had with Bianca Jagger after somebody repeatedly called her a crack whore. And she wasn't very happy with that. But comment is fantastic. There's no better way of engaging with your audience. It comes at risk, and the law is bizarre in that I'm not allowed to look at the comments on my own website lest I become legally responsible for them. Because if I look at the comments, I'm judged to edit them, and therefore I'm responsible for what appears. If, however, I just let people write what they like, then I'm not responsible, which just seems completely backwards and bizarre. So we have a series of watchwords on the site. The first time you comment, you're vetted to make sure that you're not a bam pot, and there's a couple of guys from the BNP who try to post on the site and they never ever make it. But user interaction has been the secret of our success so far. We've got a loyal audience, and the reason they're loyal is because they carry out a discussion on the site. It's a no-brainer, but there's a huge amount of risk involved as well. So let's get to the fun bit, the problems.